Speaking of new ice cream recipes, I did end up doing some blood work and trying to see where I was at with my hormone levels. And I figured that I would be able to run through just my own interpretation of what I learned from my clinical labs analysis. Because I didn't do the testosterone, I did that last time. I did my follicle stimulating hormone, my luteinizing hormone, and then I also ended up doing my DHT, my dihydrotestosterone levels. And these are all ones I've heard of, but I've never gotten this tested before. And then there's estradiol in there as well, which is one that I've definitely heard of, but also never got tested, never really knew the reference range, didn't really know what it meant, just knew that it was something to look for. A totally different conversation, which was my ApoB and my ApoA1, and my cholesterol levels and lipid proteins, and making sure that I'm not in a position where I'm at risk. Standout one that people always look for is estradiol. Luteinizing hormone is more for like stimulating the testes and being able to have that effect with chillins, making some chillins. But it is interesting how much it affects women differently than men when you look at the reference ranges here. DHT, dihydrotestosterone, being very important for hair growth, and balding patterns have a lot to do with the DHT levels.
Yep. Yeah, you're
I was wondering, because I just went through that, and I compared it. Luckily, I have the Andro Diet book, so I've been comparing it to the different sections in that book that talk about each of these individual hormones to make sure that I can optimize them and I know what they mean.
Yeah.
I did it on my birthday because everyone wants to get a good blood test on their birthday.
Yep.
I did it a little bit later in the day. If you look at the time, it's 11:44 a.m. So testosterone levels wouldn't be ideal at that time. In effect, do you know what that has? If you're looking at timings of day with your luteinizing hormone, your FSH, your DHT, and your estradiol,
you're in good range regardless. Like your LH is 8 and the top of the range is 12, for example, which means the signal is good. It's in a good range. It's not over communicating, meaning that your testes can't keep up with that signal, which is good for, secondary hypogonadism, which you definitely don't have. So you're in like a sweet spot that is good for LH. It was interesting to see your estradiol, though, is like 20 out of the reference range, ending at 47. I would have expected much higher estradiol considering your total testosterone. So
I'm not touch receipts. I'm trying to keep those plastics away from me.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely good as long as you still feel good.
Estrogen is important for certain things. It's not like you want to get rid of it totally, take estrogen blockers and screw yourself over.
Yeah, right. And even just to briefly go back to copper, we just read a little bit earlier before the episode, the estrogen actually helps your absorption of copper. It's like a mechanism, especially in women when it comes to pregnancy, to offer a healthy offspring. So that's kind of the mechanism there with estradiol and copper absorption. For you, I wouldn't have been like too afraid if your estradiol was even above the reference range, because your total T is above the reference range too. So the proportion is still there, even though you're at superhuman levels. As long as you still feel good, then everything's all good. You must just be really isolating from all the BS very well.
I'm hopeful. I still have my steak wrapped in plastic, but
yeah,
it seems like I shouldn't worry about that because it doesn't affect me to the point where I really need to worry about it.
I mean, as long as you don't cook your steak in the microwave in the plastic. I used to buy these burritos. Yeah, in Utah, and I would heat them up in the wrapper because that's what my dad did. And whenever my dad made them, it was wonderful. And what the wrapper does, you kind of open the end of it and then heat it in there for 2 minutes, and it thoroughly cooks the burrito. Because if you've ever had a frozen burrito, you carve into it, take a bite, and the middle of it is still like ice.
Life's different now. No more burritos for us, man. Well, maybe like Giga burritos, a little Andro Diet burrito, maybe.
I had a Giga burrito last week. It was that one I took the selfie for the Andro Flex. And this was Cafe Rio. I'm going to have to take you to Cafe Rio. You're going to love the food. But
Cafe Rio,
the most dangerous thing is their tortillas. They're pretty thick. They're buttery. The texture is perfect.
Comes in with tortillas, senor.
They're like 430 calories for a single tortilla.
Dios mío.
But a once in a while burrito, it's aight. But of course, the steak in there, you gotta. It's everything else. And I don't even get rice and beans these days with the burrito. It's just meat, cheese,
Just
sauce, done.
burrito. There's the siete wraps that I'll sometimes splurge with, but they're almond flour, which is still not ideal, or cassava flour. I don't mind cassavas, but the almonds, I feel like if I eat too much of that, I'm going to have the same issue of eating too many almonds, which is just going to be an overload on my system because there's certain nutrients in there that are slowing down my digestion process. It's like going crazy on nut butters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not sprouted or anything like that. So keep it easy on that.
How do you feel about your blood work overall, though? Did you expect anything differently, or?
This is interesting because I haven't done these blood tests ever. So it was the first time I ever looked into that stuff.
Yeah.
And I know what they do, but honestly, I don't really know as much what to look for. Like if something stands out from what we know and what we've learned through our blood work, and see if something's off, but it's still okay in the reference range. But we look at it comparatively to other things, and we're like, this doesn't make any sense. So we can connect the dots in that way.
Yeah.
When it comes to a lot of the stuff we're used to, we're looking at vitamin levels, testosterone, free testosterone, SHBG. These hormone levels are pretty important for certain tasks. Men who are worried about hair growth, who are worried about getting their partners pregnant. There's certain hormone levels that need to be looked into in this perspective as well. There could be the occasion where men are having issues, and one of these hormones that they usually don't get tested, maybe to blame, the estradiol is too high, or their luteinizing hormone isn't stimulating properly, or stimulating too much. And they're having issues because of that. And then it impacts their free testosterone and their total testosterone and how they feel. I'm the kind of person who would just get it all done and just get everything out of the way because I'm just super curious and want to make sure everything's all checked out, and don't want to be like, well, let's check this. And then if this doesn't look right, then let's go check this.
Yeah.
And then keep on going down that rabbit hole. I'd rather just get it all done. So I have it all in one panel and I can just see everything. And I can kind of connect the dots in that way.
The more you know about your body and your obstacles, and from there you'll be able to take away some of the burden of getting things tested, like the magnesium, for example. With me, it's like I know I don't need a magnesium blood test because I'm on it, and that was actually expensive. I went and got magnesium tested the first time, and I was fine, but the vial, they have to buy a special vial to contain your blood to be able to test magnesium. So that's a whole
That's
other...
just the magnesium serum.
Yeah.
There's also the red blood cell magnesium that Matt Blackburn talks about.
Yeah. I wonder if
tests.
What one my test was actually, if that was RBC or not. That's one of the ins and outs too, is knowing what is the better test to get done. And sometimes you won't even have the option, because the doctors, they just search it up basically on something that will show them the panels that they can order. They don't have it, or they just choose the first one, then you never know.